Yep, Enel, we are live.
Yeah, so I'm audible, right?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Indranil Chaudhary from M Junction Services Limited, Kolkata. And I welcome you all to this webinar. A very warm welcome to all of you on to this webinar on right technology for right procurement. And let me assure you that the next 60 minutes that we'll have all of us together, so the next 60 minutes would leave us with some definite key insights for all of us who are striving to improve our procurement practices in our own organizations. So during our discussion today, our aim would be to better understand the considerations or factors which actually should be evaluated by organizations to procure better. By better, there's some organizations procure well, they think they do well, some feel that they need improvement, but by and large across organizations, everybody would strive to do better than what they are doing today. And also we would be touching upon some significant levers which could decide the right technology for any procurement organization. And obviously, apart from all of these, with the people that we have today on board, we'll also be hearing success stories from such seasoned procurement specialists who are present with us today. So let me introduce the three eminent personalities who have joined me today in this webinar. And I'm sure they would be helping us in stimulating our vision of bettering how we procure today in our own individual unique capacities. So we have with us today Mr. Vivek Sanghi, a leader in procurement function. And Mr. Sanghi currently works as the Chief Procurement Officer of Texmaco Rail and Engineering Limited. He has rich experience in handling both manufacturing as well as EPC procurement, and has an experience of more than 30 years in operating and running varied businesses. He also is a management graduate with specialization in finance. So welcome, Mr. Vivek Sanghi. Welcome to this program.
Thank you, Indranil, for the introduction. Thank you very much.
So we also have with us Mr. Vamsi Krishna. Mr. Vamsi Krishna is actually a specialist in production planning and materials management, who presently works as the project manager of MSPL. So he has hands-on experience of more than 15 years in implementation and managing e-procurement platforms. Mr. Vamsi Krishna has also worked extensively in production planning and plant maintenance, quality management, product costing, etc. And incidentally, Mr. Vamsi Krishna is a BTech in mechanical engineering. So welcome, a very warm welcome to Mr. Vamsi Krishna.
Thank you, Indranil.
We're happy to have you with us. So we also have with us the other esteemed panelist, Mr. Prakash Kumar. Mr. Prakash Kumar, a special mention of him because he's based out of the US, and I'm told, and I understand, and we all understand and appreciate that it's very, very early in the morning there. So he has taken his time out to join us and regale us with his insights. So he is from Ernst & Young, EY US, and where he's the assistant director. So Mr. Prakash Kumar specializes in procurement and SCM, supply chain management, and he is currently into product management. So he has rich experience in business consulting in the areas like project management, audit and risk management, vendor management, analytics, procurement, so all of these areas. And he has worked extensively across different countries in scaling up businesses, in introducing innovation in different areas, and also trying to mitigate the various challenges that we see in an ever evolving procurement function. So welcome, a very warm welcome to Mr. Prakash Kumar. Welcome to this program.
Ranil.
So coming back to our discussion, let me try to set up a brief context. So before the introduction of e-procurement, as we all know, or electronic procurement, we all had paper-based functions. Now, when a company's procurement had to be handled typically on paper, it had to work. Why? I mean, it worked because it had to work, because there was no way in which the work could have stopped. But as and when the internet came along, the focus shifted on to emails and websites, etc. And as the new technologies continue to develop, the procurement transformations slowly started coming in. And this ultimately has led to a situation where most organizations today look forward to end-to-end procurement functions. They look at end-to-end procurement automation. So while procurement and supply chain management professionals, they possibly, I would say, they increasingly serve as trusted advisors to different CEOs or the CXOs of different companies. They try to, uncover the opportunities of savings, which incidentally still happen to be the topmost priority of any CEO today, or any CFO, or any top C-level executive of any organization. And now, to meet all of these, technology has come in, through use of heightened spend transparency. If you talk about better category management, then if you talk about more effective supplier relationship management, and even if we want to talk about leveraging business analytics and data. So today's enhanced, automated business solutions actually require businesses to remain flexible. I'm sure all of us would agree that businesses have to be agile, they have to be flexible, and they have to be open to adopting and embracing new technologies. So actually, what we find is that just as we make sure that we are implementing technology in the right areas of procurement, it becomes extremely important for us to make sure that while we know the technologies and we know which are the right areas to implement them, we must also know which are the right technologies that we should use. So it means that not only should we know the right areas where to deploy technology or where to use technology, but also we should understand and be very clear on what is the right technology that we should use. So for example, there are some puzzles which remain in our mind. So where exactly, is technology being used or deployed by the procurement function teams? This could be one puzzle, that we would like to solve. What could be the reasons why enterprises look at integrating technology with procurement? And what does the future of procurement look like with all of these technologies that we are talking about? So these are some of the many puzzles or some of the many thoughts which entangle our mind that we would like to unravel today. And I would like to go straight away now to Mr. Vivek Sanghi to actually, I would say, to have an ice-breaking session, as far as straight away having this start off. So, Mr. Vivek Sanghi, you have recently, what I understand and we all understand is that you've recently been into taking a decision or finalizing your procurement transformation in areas of moving towards automation. So with this experience, I'm sure with a lot of experience that you already have, with the fresh perspective that you have in mind, which are the procurement problem areas which you felt were the main priorities for your organization to solve? So as you decided on going for automation, so which are the typical problems that you thought that your organization had which you needed to solve? And while you went ahead in solving that or trying to solve that, which are the mandatory solution features? So every problem that you like to solve might have a solution, but which are those mandatory or essential solution features that TechSmacko looked at when evaluating your procurement solution? If you can just, take us through your experience.
Yeah,
Over to
thanks, Indranil. It's a very, very valid and a contemporary question. And I would begin by saying, what exactly do we mean by right procurement? In the sense, right procurement, does it mean quality, cost, and delivery? Or does it go beyond the quality, cost, and delivery paradigm? Given the best of the companies, the share in revenue of procured goods is anywhere between 50 to 70%, which means that a hugely significant cost goes under procurement. And the rest gets into the value chain and value additions and so on and so forth. Now, typically, which you rightly said, Indranil, was that procurement was and continues to be a paper job, where, according to me, the team spends more than 65 to 70% of their times making documents, taking approvals, sharing documents like engineering drawings, specifications, and so on and so forth. So, whereas for the right procurement to happen, we would be looking at vendor development, proper negotiations, proper price discoveries, and then the quality costs, quality and deliveries. And if you were to take a dipstick with the procurement professionals along, they'll say half of them, depending on the level that they will say that they're into making purchase orders or chasing for deliveries. Not many procurement professionals will talk about vendor development, value engineering. There is always a target at the beginning of the year to give a reduction in procurement. However, it gets constrained because of a variety of reasons. Now, this exact problem brought us to fore that how can we remove the mundane paper job? That was our one of the criteria. The number two criteria is that you're dealing with a large amount of money. So how do we make the entire process very, very transparent so that quotations which are coming in are always visible and the negotiations carry a trail? So that was our second issue which was in front of us. The third, which came simultaneous to coming out with a solution of moving things to the platform, was confidentiality and securing the information which is being shared on the platform. My understanding is that when you are doing this, you are virtually opening all sorts of books on the platform. The drawings, the technical specifications, the vendor base, where at what time are you buying what? So these are gold nuggets inside a company. So confidentiality is a major issue, along with transparency. So transparency is for documents and data happening internal to the company, and confidentiality is that it somehow does not go out of the system. We are all aware of what happens when platforms leak out credit card details. So while there are individuals who get impacted, for us, it would be the company's fortune which could get impacted. So that's a major pointer for us, confidentiality. And there also comes along with it is whom are we dealing with? Who owns the platform? So the pedigree of the platform, because I'm sure my other panelists will talk about the technology, and my understanding is generating a platform is no longer high tech. Maybe 4 engineers sitting together can be able to deliver this kind of a platform. But are we willing to share information and knowledge on that platform? So that is also one of the key defining things for right procurement using the right technology, which comes from a company which has the reputation to back it and would not allow things to go out of the system. So I think I've broadly covered, Indranil, what I wanted to. If you want any further additions, please.
Yeah, no. I think, Mrs. Sanghi, you are absolutely, you have actually addressed the issue that I had brought up. Well, if I would like to ask you, taking a cue from whatever you've said, if I would ask you as a CPO of an organization, what could be the single most important decision? If you have to choose one or maybe a couple max, in actually deciding which is the best solution for you when you go in to implement an automation in procurement, what could be the single most decision making factor in such cases, or is there none?
This will be at the cost of repetition. I would go by the platform's credibility, followed by the confidentiality there is. I might risk a slightly inefficient platform, if at all, on the process front, where maybe I need to tweak into my ERP system, maybe cut my shoes to the size which is being available, so that I could. But these two are virtually without compromise.
Okay, thanks. That helps. Well, when you say this, at the same breath, let me put this point, in front of you. We often hear about brands, brand value, the reputation, credibility in the market. So a lot of these things, some of them we hear as a jargon, some of them we hear because we like others say. So if I typically, if I try to consolidate all these views together, so how important do you think is the role of a brand in influencing a CPO's decision to buy any automation product or an automation solution? So what is the how important is the role of the brand? And if you evaluate any solution by any service provider or anybody, from where you want to implement the automation, I mean, if you look at brand, you could look at technology, or you could purely look at the service provider or the implementing partner or the IP. So if I look at these three, one is the service provider or the implementation partner, the next one is the product technology, and the other one is the overarching brand. So among these three, what would be the order of preference in descending order of preference? I mean, as far as you are concerned, when you select a solution, and how important is the role of a brand in making this decision?
You see, the brand will encompass all the three that you said. A brand is not made here by advertising. Unlike maybe quite a few products that we are used to on a daily basis, the brand here is talking about credibility, guarantee of service, and consistency. And finally, I have labored on confidentiality a little bit too much, but those would be what would constitute overall as a brand. So maybe a brand, the name of the company may be recognized by all. The platform is again, I would wish not to take names here, but it's a global brand. It is available across Europe, across America. Some of our vendors in America or Europe are using it, and so on and so forth. But for us, it is very important that the IP is available at a very, very short time for any problem resolution. Irrespective of whatever we say about the platform's integrity, we will get into problems. And when we get into problems, I won't want my solution partner to be in states and be awake like Praveen is at 4 o'clock in the morning, or vice versa. So there is an issue to proximity. So according to me, brand is important and covers these 4 or 5 characters.
Thanks. I think that was quite engaging. So I now move on to Mr. Vamsi Krishna. So Mr. Krishna, I mean, we've seen or we have heard through our experience, through the experience that we have heard from our business colleagues outside organizations, friends and peers, that whenever there's a change, so now be it from an offline to an online, or in any business process, whenever there's a change, there's always an inertia, which actually prevents or retards that change from happening. So typically, when we talk about an automation in procurement, when an organization moves towards automation, it's a very progressive step. And that step is also that it's supposed to usher in a lot of well-being for the organization which is taking this step. But at the same time, it brings a baggage along, and that baggage is apprehension. You would like to call it pessimism. So the point here, which I would like to raise on this platform now, is whenever we go in to implement an e-solution or an automation in any organization, what do you think could be the key factors, or what are the parameters which determine how far this degree of pessimism or this degree of apprehension would prevail in an organization? What are those factors, and what are the generic concerns? I mean, you can be specific about your organization. That would be more, that we will be able to relate that better. So apart from that, what are the specific concerns that you have experienced in terms of managing change among the stakeholders in your organization?
Yeah. As you said in the mail, there will be always a resistance when there is a change management happening in a system. So people basically get addicted to the work which they are doing. So whenever a change management comes, they always resist it. But see, nowadays the technology is going in a very good way and very rapid way. So the benefits which we are getting from the change management, which we are trying to do, so those are the factors which make the people accept the change management. So see, before this, as Vivek sir has also told that most of the procurement people, they were spending their time in the analytics, means making the reports, analysis, vendor evaluations, and all those things. So a right platform can automate all those things. So these are the benefits which we need to expose to the users who are using those things. So even in our organization, when we step onto a change management, there was a resistance. So there were so many sessions we conducted to explain the advantages. So that is one thing. And as per the context of stakeholders, there will be always a concern regarding the security, regarding the transactional data transfer, and always there will be a doubt regarding the flexibility of the system. So once we address these things, so I don't think then there will be a much resistance in the users or the stakeholders for going for a better change management.
I think rightly said, because one point which actually resonates with the thoughts that we have, or with our experiential whatever knowledge that we have gathered, is that whenever a change is getting implemented, so be it any business process, whether it's automation or any other, sorry, awareness of the stakeholders regarding the benefits or the perceived betterment of what they do today. I think these are the subtle things which need to get imbibed amongst all the stakeholders, and that would actually mitigate the problems of getting this change implemented. So I think rightly said, and there's no disagreement on that, and we fully agree with you. But if you look at adoption, and I'm coming specifically to MSPL, the organization where you come from, because one of the objectives, as I mentioned in my earlier context setting, was to also understand from all of you a few success stories that you have experienced in your organizations. So taking a cue from there, was adoption of this automation or any change, was that a great concern? I mean, was that one of your concerns which actually influenced your decision making on what procurement platform you would take? I mean,
Yes, see, basically when it comes to our organization, presently we are using a ERP, that is SAP S/4HANA. So even having this ERP, why we moved for an e-procurement system? See, basically ERP is restricted to some limitations. So we can't give our servers or our data to the whole centralized suppliers. So this is the point where the e-procurement plays a very important role. The centralization of all the data, all the suppliers, everything. So uh, taking an e-procurement system, so it will be a secured for my present ERP. It will be out of the system. As you know, most of the procurement activities, 80% are related to the external usage. Only 20% we can consider it for the internal sharing and all those things. So I don't want to expose my ERP for that 80%. So in these cases, e-procurement is one of the best platform where my procurement needs can be totally fulfilled with the e-procurement system. So, so that I can take care of all the 80% of the external processes which happens in the procurement. And moreover, I can get an authenticated like data analysis with the e-procurement system. So this was the main thing which we thought of while we were going for the e-procurement system, even though we were having the advanced cloud-based SAP S/4HANA also, we have planned for going for the e-procurement system. And one more thing, basically the ERP mostly talks about P2P, which is procure to pay. So when we come to e-procurement system, we can even aim it to source to pay. So things which happens before the procurement cycle starts, those all can be covered in the e-procurement system, which is a very, we can say it's an advantage in these types of platforms. So these are the key factors which make us to move on to the e-procurement system. And see, basically when the system is, when the technology is evolving, So the systems are also evolving with the technologies. So there is AI coming into the system. We are making the system to understand our requirements. And as far the security is concerned, there is blockchain is also there, where our data will be very much secure, and it will. So these types of things, automation, these things make the companies to move forward for the e-procurement system.
Right. Thanks, for sharing your insights, Mr. Vamsi. One more, thought, which I was thinking of taking this point up with you is, in any organization, be it large enterprise, I mean, it could be a medium enterprise as well. So there are various demands in terms of expectations. The CEO or the MD might have a set of expectations. There could be a CPO who has a set of expectations regarding what procurement function he or she needs to implement or run. Then there's a set of expectations from the CFO of the organization in terms of financing, in terms of cash flow, managing the vendors, managing the suppliers and supplies. So, I mean, do you think it's what is I mean, how can these three forces get balanced? If I would like to look at each one of them as a force, an expectation from the top management, which is the MD, an expectation from the finance head, and expectations from the person who is running the procurement organization. So how difficult is it to balance, and what are the nuances? I mean, some sort of an idea, if you can give us, it'll help us.
See, basically, as before Vivekji has told, like brand plays a very important role. See, when it comes regarding the brand, means what is the pedigree of that brand? What is the legacy of that brand? So where else those are already implemented? Means those the same e-procurement wherever it has been implemented before. So these all come under consideration. So when it comes for the CFO or any financial aspects, so what is the benefit we will be getting from these type of systems? So basically, the financial aspect is one of the crucial thing, because we know that e-procurement system is not that much cheaper. So when we are going for an e-procurement system, there should be a value addition to our business. So in terms of time, in terms of money or anything, so these analysis make the people to understand whether we need to shift our procurement to a E1. So rather than being a procurement to an electronic procurement. So these things plays a vital role in decision making for moving to the e-procurement system. Yes, we had also so many challenges in the initial part, but we deal with a proper analysis report which we have shared. So these gives the insight of the shift to a e-procurement system will be a value addition to the company rather than a burden to the company.
Right. Thanks. I think that gives us a lot of food, for thought as far as these points. I was thinking about mentioning and putting this up to you, and it's good that you have tried to, and you have addressed this point quite comprehensively. So I come to Mr. Prakash Kumar. So Mr. Prakash Kumar, the first area of discussion which I would like to take forward to you is that we often, I mean, it's an often seen. We often find that organizations try to adopt automation in procurement. I mean, they look at e-procurement solutions. They try to move towards with an objective of moving towards transparency, efficiency. They try to move towards automation. And but some organizations succeed, in having a very good implementation. By good, I mean that the outcomes which we get from implementing an e-procurement solution, the outcomes actually are aligned with the expectations of the organization. So they are good. Whereas in many cases, we also hear and we find that many organizations have not been able to succeed in implementing e-procurement to the extent that they would have wished to. Have. So, what makes an e-procurement implementation fail is a question which reverberates in my mind and our minds often. And by this, I would also mean that there are many service providers today, and I'm sure they were even in yesteryears they were, who might approach a client with success stories. You know, Mr. Vamsi Krishna just now mentioned that the management would always look at the history, the past, you know, the credibility or the experience of the service provider while taking some sort of a position on a solution. So towards this, I would like to ask you, Mr. Prakash, that there are many organizations, many service providers who say that, you know, that they have come up with some success stories. They have implemented a lot of places. They have implemented e-procurement well, but sometimes, even with all of these, the organizations which try to adopt e-procurement sometimes fail. Now, there could be service providers who succeed somewhere and don't succeed somewhere. There could be that scenario as well. But overall, with your experience, if you could help us understand what makes an e-procurement solution actually fail. Over to you.
This is a very good question, Ranil, and I'm glad that you touched it because, you know, no discussion is complete without discussing failures. I think that's more important. You know, you can bring many panelists and they can start building stories of success. The basic reason why any procurement implementation fails is because while the message is right, the messaging isn't. You know, all of us sitting over here can write like 100 pages of article as to why e-procurement is good. But e-procurement itself is not to be looked at in isolation. E-procurement is just part of the entire IT-enabled supply chain. Today, many companies are stuck in a slow decision-making process, red tapeism, huge infrastructure cost, a legacy procurement system which doesn't work. It doesn't connect through APIs to external systems. More importantly, the human factor. There is a job threat. Anytime you talk to a CPO or a CIO or a CXO and tell that, you know, your procurement system is not agile, you need to change. The first thing is gonna shoot in his mind, no matter who he or she might be. And I have consulted several organizations, several Fortune 500 organizations in that. Everybody sees that it is a threat. The threat that what happens to my job? You know, it's a very valid threat. We all earn paycheck to support our bills at the end of the day. I think that's why, you know, we are all working. Otherwise, we would just be sitting on the couch and doing something else. The very factor of job threat is there. This is the perceived action, because whenever the procurement is being sold as an IT-enabled e-procurement, generally an IT person goes there, or a business person, or bring out like a McKinsey, like a consultant going over there and talking to a procurement guy and say, hey, you know what? You have a system today and it doesn't work. It is not agile. It's not intuitive. There's too much red tapeism in it. There's a data privacy issue. There's an independence issue. He just lines up the problems. What? And then he says, you know what? I have a magic wand. And here is the software I'm trying to implement, and it's going to fix it. It's never going to fix it. Why? Because that company had some internal human issues. That company is never going to accept that change. The people of that firm are never going to accept it. They are going to reject it face up. Even if you go ahead and implement it, suppose, you know, and we have done this in past. Many people, you know, with a reluctant team, with a reluctant CPO, the CIO or the CXO forced upon it, said, you know what, you have to go ahead and implement it. You know what, it's still not going to work. What's going to happen is, suppose I am a foot soldier. I'm just the person who is managing the purchase order and goods receipt and all that stuff. I will make sure that the system fails. Because as a business person, it is my job now to ensure that IT fails. It is a constant fight between IT on one side and business on the other side is the prima facie reason why majority of the procurement system worldwide has failed. This is not a geographical constraint. This is not a company specific or a region specific constraint. This is a people specific constraint. And the IT has not gone ahead and given the message that, hey, guys, we are not over here to disrupt whatever you are doing today. We are just going to make it enable, enhance. If this is the message goes to the procurement leaders of tomorrow, not one single implementation is going to fail. Because let's imagine, I come from an IT and a technical and a business background. That's why it's easy for me to see, because I've seen the problems of both sides. I've seen as a procurement manager what problems I faced in the IT side, and as an IT person implementing the solution, I've seen what problem it is faced. So it is very easy for me to have sat on both sides of the table to really find out what the problem is. Trust me, 95% or upwards of 97% for a Bain report have not sat on either side of the table. They are either IT or they are either business. And suddenly the CIO or the CPO or the CXO calls them in a meeting and say, you know what, our procurement is not rock solid. We need to do something about it. Every quarter they will make a statement like this and they will start an internal project. It's not going to fix their problem because they have a basic behavioral problem inside. So if the IT guy, the business guy who will implement the IT solution will put the necessary API, will put the data privacy requirement, will put the data residency requirement, will put the independence requirement. If he goes with the message and tells the guys, we are not taking any job here. We are making sure each one of you is more efficient in doing the same work which you are doing today. And how you are going to, and somebody will just stand up and say, hey, I've not even touched a computer before. It's perfectly fine. You know, if a 65-year-old person is there as is kind of a guru sitting over managing procurement, it's not up to him to manage the show. There is effective training and coaching available which needs to be given. Today, what's happening is service organization implements and run away and leave the system for the procurement people to manage it. It's never going to work out that way. So in my opinion, unless we fix our own behavioral issue within the firm, bring in a culture which adopts change, and look at what has happened like in the last year and a half. Pandemic has given us an opportunity which we cannot afford to miss. This is an opportunity to embrace IT-enabled procurement like right now. There is no tomorrow. If you miss now, probably you won't last long because in a world people are not questioning. Even if the virus situation improves, people are questioning why we need to go back to office. We have managed pretty well. You can't manage with the brick and mortar type of paper procurement right now. You don't have an option right now. Your hands have been cut. Your people are sitting in remote locations and talking to various vendor and maintaining a repository of data. You have to embrace e-procurement. How you do it depends on what type of consulting organization you are dealing with. And I think that's where I will leave it over there. Again, it's a very vast topic, Indranil. I can go on, but in the interest of time, I'll just hand it over back to you for any further questions.
No, right. Thanks, Prakash. I mean, that was great hearing from you. Meanwhile, I'll just take a short detour. I'll speak to all the people who are attending this webinar. So to all of the audience, please feel free, to ask questions on your chat box, and we'll take those questions, at the end of the discussion, the last 5 or 6 minutes, to the extent that is possible. So please feel free to push in your questions on the chat box so that it's available for us. Yeah, so I come back to Mr. Prakash Kumar. I come back to you. So if we look at, we were talking about risks. There could be, we talked about apprehensions of a change. Whenever some organization is coming to change from offline to an online mode of procurement. So it is all associated with certain risks whenever we have a migration. So if we look at the possible risks, so what are the, whenever an organization implements any procurement solution or a platform, what should be, the possible risks that need to be evaluated, before selecting the e-procurement solution? So if you can throw some light on it, and what are the evolving needs of organizations? As we talk about risks, please also touch upon what could be the evolving needs of organization with relation to, let's say, alignment to governance, transparency, and equity. So your thoughts?
Yeah, the biggest risk today is the data. And I will try to classify the risk into like three aspects. One is a technical risk, where the biggest parameter is data. Today, and you have to understand that big IT companies are trying to drive this, and all the companies across the world have their own in-house procurement system. These are like elephant-sized in-house procurement system, which is too slow to move, and it just doesn't move. It's not agile, it's not intuitive, it's not scalable, and on top of it, it is a huge infrastructure cost. So today, whenever a procurement decision is being made, people wonder what I do with all this. It's a very generic question. What I do with these billions of dollars of infrastructure available? What I do with like terabytes of data available? How do the system which comes in integrates to my existing setup? This is by far, in my consulting organization and my career, I have seen as most of the customer are very worried about how their data is going to be extracted, secured, and dissipated for better use. That is the first major risk. The biggest second risk is financial risk. And that's obvious, right? The CFO might just come in and say, it's too expensive for us to implement. It's like people just ask those guys, and I have asked directly questions to me and say, guys, we have called you guys to implement a procurement solution for us, which is nimble, agile, which is a better time to market. But now you are throwing me like a contract, like I have to sign a $500,000 contract or a $2 million just to implement the system. It's too expensive for me. And you are not even giving me the guarantee that it's going to work. It's a very genuine ask, if all companies doesn't have that $500,000 million available on their table to implement it on a system which they are not sure whether that's going to give them the best cost benefit analysis. So that is the second biggest risk, I would say, technical and then financial. So the moment the cost benefit analysis is not in a favor, the management takes a step back and say, you know what, our procurement cost is about, let's say, $300,000 in both, let's say, real estate and employee cost and system cost. And now we have to implement a $500,000 of system for which we will have overheads and maintenance cost. I'm not quite sure whether we will be still underwater after 5 years. And after 5 years, what's going to happen is this system is going to just be obsolete. So that's the other question. But the most important factor and the risk factor is organizational risk, which is the human factor. Because many organizations just doesn't have the ability to change. They have either, and again, I don't want to be prejudiced against an AG group, but yes, we have to acknowledge it, that is the problem. There is a reluctance to accept change by a certain age group of people. And the organization is just not prepared that what happens, when the technology comes and my people doesn't embrace me, I am sitting with an inefficient system and on top of it, an inefficient workforce. So all three has to be like balanced together. You can't like say, technology is more than finance is more than human and put forward a solution which is either the cheapest or the most advanced technology wise or is the most employee friendly wise. It's not going to work because either it will be too slow again, it will be too expensive, or it will be whatever. So you have to strike a balance. And that's where, due diligence needs to come, where in the orals discussion, next time, my advice to the audience today and also to the panelists and everybody else would be, whenever an implementing organization comes to implement a procurement solution for you guys, don't just look at the proposal as standalone. In standalone proposal, they are just writing what their firm is giving it to you. You have to ask what you want from them. Unless that dialogue happens, however long it takes, that oral discussion can go on forever. If it takes 2 months, it takes 2 months. You have to ask, okay, this is what you are bringing, but this is not exactly what I want. This is what I want. Now tell me, and now construct me, and now answer my questions, how you are going to make it happen. If that is going to, if they can take care of that, trust me, there is no better way to saying that this program will be then guaranteed for success. Brand plays a very important role, as one of the, I think Vamsi probably covered it in his thing. You know, why brand is important today? The brand is important because brand gives you the the best chance to succeed. You know, when a firm, let's suppose you are talking about a Fortune 100 firm, you know, their procurement is running into thousands, like billions of dollars. They can't risk implementing the solution which doesn't work even for a day. That's why, you know, the brand comes in. So along with these parameters, we need to be looked upon. And you have to also look at the brand. So, and if you can afford it, it's better to go with a secured brand which will give you more assurance on top of it.
Thanks, thanks, Mr. Prakash Kumar. Thanks. You know, that was quite interesting and engaging as well. So, just a small question. You know, one question to Mr. Vamsi. You know, so if you have to make a choice, you know, let's put three parameters in front of us. So, if you have to make a choice, let's say one of the choices is latest technology. Okay, this is one, which of course takes care of security, data security, which, you know, we have been hearing about, integration. So what's if this latest technology is one. Second could be user-friendly functionalities. The GUIs, the features, the GUI is more user-friendly, so it's easy to use basically. So this is the second one. And the third parameter is the change management. How you know the change management, how is it aligned with helping in change management? So amongst these three, which is more important, or which or one of more, you know, if more than one is equally important, you know, what is the order of importance of all these three?
See, basically, all the three plays a vital role, but mostly the technology, the product technology is much more important. And but in some of the cases, I may say, like, if my type of business doesn't involve much technology, means it doesn't need that much analytics, it doesn't need that much AI into it. So in that cases, maybe it may vary, but most of the time, it is the technology only which can deliver all the requirements of some particular firm. So I think in the all the three, the technology plays a vital role.
Okay, thanks. Just I would like to go back to Mrs. Sanghvi. Now, Mrs. Sanghvi, you being the CPO of an organization which has adopted or embraced automation in procurement, you have led procurement transformation from the front. So, in your message, if you were to give a message to all the CPOs of the world, or I would not say world, in India today, if you would like to give a message to the CPOs on the principal do's and don'ts while finalizing or while selecting an e-procurement solution, what would be your message?
Could I have the last part repeated, please? I missed.
Yes, yes. So if you were to give a message to all the CPOs in our country today who are actually embarking on this journey of getting their procurement function digitized, so what would be your advice on the do's and don'ts to those CPOs?
I'll take a leaf out of the previous discussion that Prakash did. And where I would say the topmost is, why do you really want to do it? Why do you want this change? That is to be addressed first before embarking upon anything else. And a round of discussion maybe with the key stakeholders in the procurement function, maybe the CFO and the CXO, CIO, those kinds of people put together. Because as one embarks upon doing a kind of a business, we will encounter problems on finance. It's going to add to costs. We need to speak to our people who are used to thinking that making a purchase order sort of a thing is their job, which gets diluted significantly when you are moving on a e-procurement. So making an RFQ and doing all that stuff. So somewhere over a period of time, people have come to recognize that in procurement, that is the job. So that needs to be redefined to them before we embark upon e-procurement business. That's what my statement to my contemporaries would be.
And do you think that the country of origin should be a factor for sourcing? Because somebody mentioned, I think one of us mentioned that proximity, about brand value. So in that perspective, would country of origin be a factor for sourcing?
I'm sure it is going to be because one would want to look at confidentiality and data integrity of the system. So otherwise, the country of origin really does not matter in today's world. The platform could be from anywhere as long as one can relate to the confidentiality. Service, I'm sure, can be delivered from across the globe. But my risk is my data sitting on a different jurisdiction, which could have its own sets of laws and processes, which may be different to my jurisdiction.
Okay.
And if at all I have to get into some kind of unfortunately a problem, then half of the time we would be trying to address issues on jurisdiction and the laws prevailing in the country where the solution provider resides.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we'll take a couple of more questions from the audience. We've been taking those questions for the last 5-6 minutes. Just a couple more over the next 2 or 3 minutes. Question for Mr. Prakash Kumar. For example, do you think you have been working globally, in different parts of the world, leading procurement transformations. So at this point in time, if you compare India with the outside world, do you see actually any exciting trend in embracing procurement technology outside India that India is yet to embrace? Is there anything that you see?
Actually, I will try to paint actually a glim picture over here. The global trend is not very encouraging. At least pre-pandemic, it was not encouraging, as companies either had a failed implementation or they had an implementation where the e-procurement was not working the way it was supposed to work. Pandemic has forced the change. It has forced the leaders to think that they have to start now. It's like take a step now. The step becomes a jog, the jog becomes a run, and run becomes a marathon. That's what they have realized, that this is what is needed for them to succeed. The problem which was happening earlier, which is still happening, which needs to be fixed, it needs to be fixed in all geographies. This is a problem even in an Indian context as well as in a global context. The problem is procurement is being looked at as a silo. It is not. This is a mistake which people make, that procurement, okay, I am just focused on procurement. My procurement is working fine. I just don't care. It doesn't fulfill the business objective of the company, because procurement is nothing but a part of the supply chain. If a supply chain itself is unhealthy, even if you bring in the best solution for e-procurement or whatever you choose to call, and I choose to call it as an IT-enabled procurement, because e-procurement is nothing but is kind of the the whole maze of IT sitting inside your procurement system. So the entire supply chain has to be fixed, right from purchase requisitions to payments. Like there is a goods receipt, quality inspection, procurement, ordering, PO, material dispatch. Everything is part of a procurement system. And today, the global trend has been that many of us have been looking as procurement as a silo and have said that, okay, 2 years later, the implementation has happened, and we say, guys, we have not got the desired results. The desired results have not come because the rest other factors is not fixed up. It's just like, there's a disease which is affecting multiple organs. You just go and take care of one of the organs, still are not going to get cured and healthy. It's just like, there is a larger problem which needs to be addressed, which is the entire supply chain value system.
So, thanks, Mr. Prakash Kumar. That was good, to hear. So the final one, Mr. Vamsi Krishna, one thought which is still, possibly reverberating in my mind is that we've been hearing quite a lot in this discussion itself that the people, managing the stakeholders, their possibly, I would say, apprehensions, they lead to the embracing of the technology by the procurement function. Either they feel threatened or they feel that they'll not get the importance that they are getting today. So while we understand and while we appreciate that this is a problem, this is an area of concern which needs to be addressed while going for automation, I would like to take your perspective. I would like to have your take on this because you've been managing e-procurement transformations. You have been implementing e-procurement projects in organizations. So in a quick 1 minute or so, what could be the key actions that you would take as a leader in ensuring that these problems of the people not aligning themselves or not being agile to embrace technology you would face? What would you do?
See, basically, I just want to tell one thing before this thing. See, basically, in any organization, a procurement person is known as a very much hard worker, not regarding the work and all those things. See, you will be seeing the procurement people spending all the time till the nights in the organization doing not a productive work, doing on the analytics, the valuations, the controls, the approvals. So they are spending much time in these type of things. So this is the point where we need to focus on. See, so when an automation comes in part, so all these works comes reduced. So these works come totally reduced to an automated report, which we get in our mail or in a message form. We can get all the analytics and everything. So basically, these advantages we can push to any stakeholders or anyone. See, if you think about the e-procurement system, everything happens in the system. The approvals, the comparison, the vendor evaluations, even the payment. If you train the system in a way, even that also can be done. Even the automatic contract creations also can be done in the e-procurement system. So these are the things which need to be promoted in a larger way for everyone to come into the system and to own the system in the way it is.
True. So right, so I think this has been quite an engaging session, and I'm sure that all of us have enjoyed as much as we here have enjoyed in participating. So I'll just quickly try to summarize, what we could gather, of course, in the next 2 to 3 minutes. So Mr. Sanghi, first, he spoke about, he told us about what he means by right procurement. We heard about quality and cost being very much important in making decisions of the right systems of the platform. We also heard about value engineering, the vendor management, getting negotiation trails as one of the principal qualifiers of moving into automation. confidentiality of data, security of information, transparency. All of these things came out, from the different words which came out from Mr. Sanghi, today in the discussion when we started the webinar. And one important point also, which we all understand and we appreciate, is that he spoke about sharing of information and knowledge. And that is actually very important, because many a time information resides in our organization, but sharing, disseminating the knowledge, converting the information into usable knowledge is more important than having the information piece in itself. So I think that's a very key message that we get from Mr. Sanghi. And the other point is also very important. He mentioned that a brand, when we talk about brand, oh yes, this is a good brand or this is not so good brand. So he made a very clear mention is that brand is not actually advertised, what is mentioned in advertisements. A brand cannot be advertised. It is much above advertisement. So a brand actually is built on trust, on consistency, on credibility, confidentiality. So all of these points, I think these are very valid points. So thank you, Mr. Sanghi, for regaling us with all of these insights. So then we went to Mr. Vamsi. So what happened is Mr. Vamsi Krishna was also speaking to us about change management, which always is a very important parameter which comes in whenever there's a change towards automation. And then he went on to mention that we need to always try to qualify the benefits, the perceived benefits to the stakeholders. Because, if we can articulate the benefits well to all the stakeholders, then the problem of managing the change becomes much easier to solve. So that's one key message that he gave us. And we also got to know from him that, yes, in the procurement parlance today, in the entire ecosystem where IT is becoming, is intertwined with our procurement practices, obviously AI and ML, you go anywhere, AI and ML fits in anywhere, whether it's robotics or whether it's any sort of a business process. So this has got something to do with getting embedded in the business's processes today. So I think that's something which came out from his statements. And there was an interesting question which I put forward to Mr. Vamsi, is about how to balance the demands of the different stakeholders like an MD, the CFO and the CPO together. So that's also was a very good, interesting perspective we got to know, where also the importance of brand came in, incidentally. And he also mentioned that the management would always look for credibility in terms of past performance of the service provider. So that's very important, that whenever selection is made, the past performance is taken into account. Then they look at the benefits, because the CFO would always like to see how beneficial this system or the adoption would be to the organization as far as finances are concerned. So this is one, and the other one which we took away from Mr. Vamsi's comments is that the technology is also very important. The technology piece, that's the product technology is also a very important factor. So then we went on to Mr. Prakash Kumar, and then from him, we also got some insights on why the e-procurement initiative fails in organizations. And he was very clear and categorical in stating that we should, the messaging across the organization, across the stakeholders should be very, very well done, done very well. And e-procurement should not be looked at as an isolated piece. It is an integrated part of an entire IT ecosystem in an organization. And that's very well said and very well appreciated. What also came out from Mr. Prakash Kumar is that there are many people in the organization, in the procurement function, who feel insecure when there's an IT intervention in terms of what they're doing today, their job, their livelihood, etc. So that has to be appropriately addressed. And the other important point that Mr. Prakash Kumar mentioned was that he mentioned about something of a tussle, something of a, I mean, although I should not use the word fight, but I would say it's a sort of a tussle between the business and the IT function worldwide. He has seen it's not predominant in India, but worldwide, and that's something which is absolutely not very good in the interest of an organization. So that needs to be addressed. Primarily, he spoke about behavioral issues, the culture of change, the ability of the implementing agency to handhold the users, which should actually lead to less stress in managing the change. And obviously, we are all we agree with him when he says that this pandemic today has given a tremendous opportunity for embracing IT to all business processes. It could be procurement, it could be outside procurement, but IT as a tool, IT as a powerful enabler, I think has become all pervasive today. And that's quite evident. Mr. Prakash Kumar also touched upon the data risks, where the risk of the data is high, and always the clients or the organizations feel that how do my data fit into the new systems which are getting integrated with my systems? Yes, I think that's a very valid point. And obviously, the people are averse to change. That's one. And financial risks, which the CFO always would perceive. So I think that was, in a nutshell, a summary of sorts, which I could gather in about 3 to 4 minutes. We're approaching the end. It's been a good 1 hour, 10 minutes that we've spent on this webinar. I really I would like to thank Mr. Vivek Sanghi for taking his time out here. A very big thank you to Mr. Vamsi Krishna for joining us. And a very big thank you to Mr. Prakash Kumar for joining us to this webinar. And a very big thank you, a very big time, a great deal of thanks to the audience who have been patient and who have been hearing us, putting the questions on the chat box, which we've used to deliberate today. So a big thank you to everyone. And with this, I would like to bring this webinar to a close. Thanks very much, all of you. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.